Today's motion reads, African countries should introduce the wealth tax to reduce income inequality. I read the motion again. African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. Debating this motion today is Kangaru School versus St. Paul's, and all the best to both teams. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Africa has the highest gap of average incomes between the 10% and the bottom 50% of our general population. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed panel of judges, and my fellow debaters, my name is Alfred Geduka from the St. Paul School. Today, I stand before you to propose the debate, African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. Wealth is the amount of money or property a person or government owns. Tax is money that you have to pay to the government so that it can finance public services. What is wealth tax then? Wealth tax is the imposition of a levy on individuals' net income, including financial and physical assets. Wealth tax primarily targets engines of society by redistributing wealth from wealthy individuals to the disadvantaged. Income inequality refers to how unevenly income is distributed through a population. Inequality has become an increasingly pressing issue worldwide, especially in Africa, where poverty rates and economic disparities persist. The simple implementation of wealth tax can play a crucial role in narrowing this gap and promoting a more equitable society. On to my first point, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing a wealth tax in Africa will promote economic stability. Wealth tax can help alleviate poverty by reallocating resources towards public welfare programs and social infrastructure developments. I mean, look at countries which have employed this wealth tax. Examples, we have France, we have Norway, we have Switzerland, we have Portugal, we have Norway and Colombia, just to mention but a few of the long list. Thank you. I beg to rest my case.
Team opposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, I stand here before you to strongly oppose the motion that says African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. I'm Robert Irungu from the Kangaru School. African countries, this refers to sovereign nations that are found on the African continent. Wealth tax, this is the type of tax imposed on net wealth or assets owned by individuals or households. Income, this is the money that a person or a country earns from investing on businesses. Inequality, this is the unfair distribution between people or a group of people where some have more wealth, opportunity, and status. African countries should not introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequalities, and these are some of the major reasons as to why. Introducing wealth tax discourages investment and hinders economic growth. Wealthy individuals may be more inclined to move their assets and investment to countries with more favorable and tax environment. For instance, let's say you're a wealthy person. Wouldn't you want to invest on your money in a country whereby there is favorable tax environment? Think about that. In addition, wealth tax discourages entrepreneurship and innovation by penalizing success and wealth accumulation. Wealthy individuals who are the driving force behind job creation and economic development may be less motivated to invest in new ventures due to increased tax burden. In recent years, Kenya has seen an increase in direct foreign interest, FDI, which has amounted to approximately $1.6 million, in 2019. This is according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. On my third point, wealth tax can distort market prices and asset values. This is because individuals may be compelled to undervalue their assets in order to reduce tax liability. The distortion can lead to inaccurate market valuation and potentially disrupt financial markets within the African countries. So because we don't want to introduce wealth tax in African countries in order to reduce income inequality, what can we do about it? We can find better methods and ways to reduce income inequalities. Thank you.
Team Proposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
My fellow brother here has said that it hinders economic growth. I beg to differ, or I hope that next time you'll correct your sources of information. In France, which has imposed wealth tax, it is ranking top 10 in the countries that have highest economic growth rates. I am Roy Owen from St. Paul's High School, here to affirm the motion. My brother here has given us examples of countries that have imposed wealth tax, such as Colombia, Spain, Norway, but just to mention a few. In Colombia, we have free education. This is as a result of the wealth tax that has been imposed on that country. In Spain, we have free access to healthcare, while in Kenya, or not even in Kenya, in the African countries, the 55 African countries that we have, none of them have imposed free access to healthcare, have imposed free education. Let that sink in for a while. How can we generate this wealth tax that we are all talking about? High net worth individuals should be charged a levy on their net worth depending on their assets, such as, for example, they should, such assets such as housing, such as financial records, such as their incomes. For example, the countries that have imposed wealth tax, like for example, Spain, Norway, and the rest that have been mentioned, they have done this, and it has proven effective, not once, not twice. And that is why you can see that they have high rates of development as compared to Kenya. In Kenya, we have these multinational firms, such as Apple, we have Google, we have Netflix. These firms are used by people daily, by billions of people daily. Therefore, they generate a lot of income. And the reason they chose to base their farms in Africa is because we have provided a hub of economic growth. So, us as countries should be able to benefit from how they are making their income and use it to our advantage by imposing this wealth tax, so that we can use it to better our roads, we can use it to enhance free education, free access to healthcare, better housing services. My brothers over here I think they are lost in a bit. They lost a bit when they're trying to say that it will not help Africa. It is literally why we are debating about this, so that it can help Africa. I am sure I have tried to elaborate these points. Thank you so much.
Team Opposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Esteemed judges, my fellow students, good evening. I am Joel Munene from the great Kangaru School, strongly opposing the motion of today that states that African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. As my brothers here have said, introducing wealth tax will help Africa. That's not the motion of today. Your lies are suffocating us. Please, the motion of today is clearly states that African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. Implementing wealth tax require a robust and efficient administrative system to accurately assess and track individual wealth. Kenya is a third world country, and many other developing countries like Kenya lack the necessary infrastructure and resources to efficiently implement and enforce wealth tax. What will this lead to? This will, with no doubt, lead to tax evasion and overall decrease in tax revenue. Does this really bring equality? You tell me. Equality, equality, equality. Is this what we really want, or am I wrong? Wealth tax. What if we introduce wealth tax? I'm not the first person to think about this. Even Sweden did it. Sweden implemented wealth tax early 1990s, but it was eventually abolished in 2007. Why was this? The tax was criticized for its complexity, high administrative cost, and negative impact on investment and economic growth. It was argued the tax resulted in capital flight and reduced incentives for entrepreneurial activity. Is this what we really want for our country? Wealth tax can also incentivize individuals to engage in tax avoidance strategies, such as transferring assets to tax havens or restructuring their wealth holdings. Adding salt to the injury, this will certainly reduce the revenue granted from the wealth tax and create an additional burden to combat this avoidance. Is this what we want for our country? Wealthy individuals often contribute to philanthropic causes and charitable organizations. For example, Warren Buffett, the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. Majority of his fortune he has contributed together with the Gates Family Foundation and other charitable organizations, contributing billions of dollars to improve global healthcare and reduce poverty. Isn't this what we want? Isn't this the equality we want? Please, let's be open-minded. Thank you.
Team Proposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Hi there, it's Fabian Giroux from the Great St. Paul's, ready to propose the motion. Thank you. So my opposers here have told me about the Warren and the Gates Foundation. I have a question for you. Have we seen these programs working in Africa? Because the question is about Africa. So the other thing, my mates here came above the podium and told me and said about the equitable. We are introducing wealth tax to reduce the gap between the man there at the top with all the millions, with all the billions, so that we cannot build the man up there without the person down here. I don't think if there would be a Bill Gates without people using Microsoft. So if people cannot afford a laptop, how would Bill Gates be Bill Gates? If you can't build the man down there to use that laptop, how can we get a Bill Gates? Bill Gates wouldn't have the money if not for the person down there. So the other thing is, we've talked of France. We are talking about the economic resumption. France, as you know, is one of the biggest countries and is one of the biggest countries in the continent currently as we're speaking. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, is a very social guy and is known to the political dynasty. But compared to our African leaders, we have, if you take as per Forbes, we have the Kenyatta family and the Moi family ranking as one of the richest families in Africa. But mind you, their extension of their riches is above Emmanuel Macron's. What are these people doing? Why are we having Emmanuel Macron from France, and France is a wealthy nation, and he's helping, what you say, he's helping people in France, and yet we have the Kenyatta family here and people are dying of starvation. Why would we not? And we are not saying that we cut these people. We are just using the wealth. We are redistributing it to what? Public health. To what? We have had Colombians and Spain. They are using free education, free healthcare services. No country in Africa, and I know my opposers would say Kenya, but it's not that free, because I know your parents pays fees, and yet the president says free education. But in Spain, they don't pay literally anything. But if we cut the Manu Chandaria in Kenya, if we cut him, and it's not that we are cutting him, we are redistributing his wealth, and we build the people who are going to work in his industry. We are going to build him. We are going to make him stronger, because the Manu Chandaria is the African person we want to see up there, not these people who are always thinking about themselves. You know why we have a Manu Chandaria in Africa? He would be someone very big compared to Bill Gates. But Bill Gates, he's building these people down here at the bottom. And how are we building these people down here? We cannot build these people down here without having them money. We cannot build them in poverty. So if African countries introduce wealth tax, we are going to build our countries, and this is the way to go. So I will urge my opposers to join me, because clearly it's the way to go. Thank you.
Third speaker, team opposition, you have 3 minutes.
It seems hot. Am I alone? But let me tell you one thing. I'm the one who's going to bring the ban. African countries should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. Really? Are we really going for that? I thought you had experts, but I'll do the heavy lifting. So, wealth tax. What is this? We've been told clearly it's a tax imposed on the net wealth and assets owned by individuals or households. The objective of wealth taxes is that to promote great economic equality. But when we move on, we find out that actually it doesn't bring a solution. It brings a problem that we shall keep on debating along and along and along until time never ends. One thing we know and is certain is that there shall always be a gap, a difference between the rich and the poor. Since the world began, since it was made, it has always been evident. There is one who is higher than the other. It's the laws of nature. And who are you to change that? But there are ways of which you can exploit Mother Nature's benefits. Number one, we've been told that introduction of a wealth tax may discourage the investment and hinder economic growth. Very true. Very, very true. We've also been told that when we continue on, African countries may face challenges in attracting FDIs. What are those? Foreign direct investments. Now, by global competitiveness and capital attraction, we find out that high net worth individuals if they are introduced a wealth tax, what happens to them? We get our investors bored. They are bored. They are worried. What if I go into that country? Look at the wealth tax. How am I going to invest in a country that poses a threat to me in that way or another? You find out that citizen activism and encouragement of tax avoidance strategies is another way of helping us. But what else are we going to do to convince all of us? So, I believe a great man is one that does not bring up another problem, but brings a solution. And I have solutions. I have something known as alternatives that will help us shape the current rate of exploitation, of how we are going on with our economy, very evident. I went to the shop the other day and I couldn't believe what I was told the price of bread is. And if we introduce a wealth tax, you are actually telling us to die. One of them is that sector distribution. You find out that Kenya is talented. We have talented human beings. And so, if we impose wealth tax, you find out that people are going to be discouraged. Foreigners are going to be discouraged so that they can come and invest in our countries. Kenya is a good motherland, full of nature, full of wonder. And if we continue on in that manner, if we impose wealth taxes, then we are sure to lose a lot. Thank you.
Team Proposition, you have 1 minute to give your closing remark.
Disappointment indeed is the topic of today. Kangaru school, what a letdown. We are subjects to nature, and I believe you have chemistry and biology teachers, and they'll teach you that when you create a solution, there must be a problem. Problems are there, we live with problems, there are problems everywhere. And I want to say, tackling economic inequality could not uplift the life of millions, could uplift the life of millions of people out of poverty. Sustainable economic goal and encouraging unity. I'm not saying all of us can be Manu Chandaria. That's not what I'm saying. I've not said all of us can be Bill Gates. I'm saying let us make Bill Gates, let us make Manu Chandaria Bill Gates. How do we make Manu Chandaria Bill Gates? By building the common person, by building the one who believe below poverty lines. That's the one we want to uplift. The one living below poverty lines, up there where he can access, where he can work in these industries that Manu Chandaria is building and create a good environment for us all. You're giving me differences of Kenya. I want to tell you that France has more economic partners than Kenya. France has more employers than Kenya. France has more investors than Kenya. You can't tell me that investors will run away. Have they run away from France? France will be crumbling in fear right now. I mean, Kangaru school. Thank you.
Team Opposition, you have 1 minute to give your closing remark.
What a boasting. Let me tell you one thing. Progressive income tax. This is primarily based on an individual's income or earning, where tax rate increases as income levels rise. Now, PIT, or as I call it, progressive income tax, can help redistribute wealth by taxing higher income earning individuals. Instead of imposing a mere wealth tax, why don't we put something like that? If we introduce wealth taxes, they will adversely affect and place unintended consequences on the middle class and small business owners. While the intention is to target those with higher salaries, those who are the wealthiest individuals, we end up hurting the little guys. Those guys who have made, they have toiled, they have moiled in order for them to get where they are because they own small businesses and small farms. If we intend on to continue in that manner, we are sure to fail. But instead of focusing on implementation of a wealth tax, African countries should prioritize policies like abolition of corruption, something that is affecting us. Think about that.
All right, I want to appreciate the gentleman for what you've done on the motion that African governments should introduce wealth tax to reduce income inequality. You know, I was thinking about this motion, and I hoped you would really help us understand how bad is it, you know, how bad situation is it when it comes to matters, you know, income inequality. So I was really hoping the proposer, St. Paul's, would really help us understand, you know, how bad is the situation. And what is it that France, for example, as you give us an example, has done? What is it that we could achieve by that? How much wealth would be taken so that at least, and is it being distributed directly to these other people to have that inequality balanced out? You know, there are questions on that, and that's why there could be an easy way of rebuttaling this by saying, listen, even once that money is taken in, how sure are we whether this money is going to where it's intended? You know, especially in African countries where we know we are still battling some things like corruption.
Both teams, one of the things that we look at, apart from just the content and the coherence in argument, is style and presentation. So even your stage presence matters a lot. How do you grip the crowd? So for all 6 debaters, just see how you can improve on that, because it also adds points to your debate and to your team. Alfred, when you mention France, Norway, Colombia, and all these countries, how does it, since they've implemented the wealth tax, how has that reduced the income inequality? You'd have shown that, because you just mentioned, but you didn't explain now. In France, the income inequality is at X. Tevin, you explained, but then when you're explaining your points, you're explaining them to economic development. You say that France has grown, this country has grown, but we are not talking about their economic or their GDP in terms of growth. We're talking about the income inequality for this motion. So the argument was not on the economic growth of the country. The same for Christopher. I was just noting you should merge your points with income inequality. Kangaru, Robert, you had a great point on penalizing success. Joel, you attempted to rebut on that issue of how are these countries related to income inequality, but you went on, you diverted, you brought it again to social class or economic class, that even if you tax wealth, you are just changing the social status. So you didn't talk about the income inequality.
And we'll move straight to the results. The judges awarded St. Paul's with 61.8%. A round of applause, please, for St. Paul's. And the judges awarded Kangaru High School with 64%. A round of applause, please, for Kangaru High School. And the winners of this debate are Kangaru High School. We have come to the end of this debate, and until next time, it is goodbye from us here at the Debate Circle. Remember to check our social media handles for more of this content on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Threads, and equally on TikTok at the Debate Circle. Kwaheri.